time with Becca today. So just a quick broker moment. This came from a particular brokerage, but we've talked about some folks are saying, oh, I want to privately list my home. I don't want to put it on the MLS or have it syndicated out to other sites. One brokerage proactively went out there and put together this document that says seller understands that number one, we're going to have limited buyer exposure because a large pool of qualified buyers will never hear about your house. There's a financial risk because you may not get the best price because you're only exposing it to a limited number. So let's use a dumb example. If you came to your broker at KW Westfield and said, hey, I only want this listing to be seen by KW Westfield agents and nobody else, what are the chances of the very best buyer in the world finding that listing? Probably not as good. We're good. We have lots of buyer clients, but we may or may not have the right buyer client for one of our listings. So anyway, that's what they're talking about. The financial risk, longer time on market. It actually does give you longer days on market, and no public portals because it's not going out. It will not hit Zillow, will not hit Homes or Realtor.com, some of the bigger ones. And then each of your websites as well. So I say you limit yourself by just eliminating 10,000 websites immediately. Because let's just pretend half the agents on the MLS are active enough that actually have a website.
What?
Thank you. You made my point. There are some, I was talking with a broker in Park City, my counterpart in Park City, Mark Jacobson, and he said, there are some folks that, gosh, they have a $50 million listing. They don't want people walking through their house. They're usually absentee owners. They're high ticket, items. They don't even want them on any MLS. They just want an agent to market that property. I think it's a bad practice, but I think those are truly the exception, and it's less than 1% that could make sense for. You can also opt to say, I'm not going to publish the address for this property on any of your listings, so that they actually have to call you, the listing agent, to find out where is this property because it looks great. So anyway, just leaving it out there, wanted to let you know that other folks are thinking about it. There's all kinds of arrows flying around right now. Compass is suing the Northwest Multiple Listing Service in Seattle because they're not letting us sell houses on our private network. Anyway, it's kind of fun, and a bunch of babies and bullies playing with each other. Guys, the best thing you can do is market your home, your listings, to the widest, broadest market you can. Anyway, we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Dean, keeping us in line. Well, today's a awesome conversation that we're going to have. And there's this saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. One of the things I want to share about Becca as we jump into this conversation is I've witnessed multiple times on different occasions her stepping up to the plate and being somebody who is willing to contribute and help in ways that she doesn't need to. A few different examples of this, even just last weekend, you posted on our WhatsApp chat to have people go shadow you for an open house, right? Allowing new agents to be able to come and see what it looks like to be able to run a awesome open house. You've also, in a few different occasions, when we had different agents who had needs here in the office, one being the casino night that you really drove and put together a couple years back, and the auction that we had. But also, we had an agent last year who had a home, their home caught on fire, and Becca offered to do coaching sessions for anybody who would donate to help with this agent in need. And so I've seen her show up in different ways where she never had to do that as a top performer. But my hallucination or my idea is that I believe that's also what makes you a rock star when it comes to serving your clients at a high level. So I'm excited to have this conversation and really dig in behind the scenes to figure out what allows Becca to be in the top 250 on a year-by-year basis here in Utah as a top performer. And she's not only a top agent, she's also a mother and a wife. And so we're going to dive in and talk about what she's been able to do to build a repeat and referral business. So go ahead and give a warm welcome to Becca Summers.
Thanks.
Becca, you took on a pretty big job first vice president, UCAR.
Yes,
What
yeah.
made you want to go down that path?
It's Amber Burke's fault. I asked her how I could serve at a bigger capacity, and she told them. So then they're like, "Hey, Becca's interested." So then I got on the board, and then serving on the board, the president asked me if I'd be interested in serving as first VP. I'll be president in 2027, and it's something that is voted on from the population of realtors. So I think I was like the backup, like they wanted the other person to win, but they needed someone else to go against them. But I don't do anything halfway. So I campaigned. I went to other brokerages and I was like, hey, I'm running, vote for me. So I won just barely, but I won. So yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, we're going to dig a lot into the strategies that you utilize to really just maintain high level production, but just kind of give us a glimpse really quick about how your journey into real estate started.
How my journey started was unconventional. I had quit. I'd worked at a grocery store and I'd quit to stay home with my kids. I had a 2-year-old and a 9-month-old. And I realized I'd miss people, which was surprising to me because I'm somewhat introverted. So I got my license because one of my friends was like, oh, you can do it part-time and make some good money. But I ended up here at Keller Williams, and as part of the initial Ignite training, I realized I wanted to work with my database. And if I'm going to work with my database, I need to be good at my job. And so that shifted everything from being a part-time mentality to full in and taking care of my people.
Sweet. Well, I just was looking at your multi-year trends, some of the numbers that tell a story. And you've been consistently around $1.5 million to $2 million in closings on a monthly basis in volume over the last 5 years. You've been somewhere between, you've averaged about 35 closings a year, but your peak 51 units closed in a year. And so just kind of walk us through starting, going through Ignite, but then to where you are today. That's a pretty big journey that you've been on. So we're going to go through a few of these things, but just kind of walk me through what that progression looked like for you.
Okay. So my first full year, I closed 15 transactions, and almost all were database related. So it was either a family member or someone who knew me referred me to someone else was the transactions. And like my husband still worked full time. I still had babies at home. And so what I would do is I would come to team meeting every single week because it would give me ideas for content creation. It would give me mindset, helpful stuff like that. And then I set my appointments around my kids' schedules. So like I had to pay to show homes. So like I had to hire a babysitter because my husband worked full time and had 12 hours on, 12 hours off, crazy schedule. And I think that was really beneficial because I wasn't going to just haphazardly show houses. It was like, I'm showing the house, I'm doing a consultation. We're doing this on purpose because I was physically paying someone to watch my kids. And I think that was super beneficial. And then in 2019, Brady's company did a buyout. And so they paid him to leave and we took that opportunity. So then 2020 was the year he joined me, and you mentioned my production. It doubled the year he joined me because I was doing things, but the year he joined me, he took over like the operations of stuff. So he was executing the 36 touch at a much higher level than I ever did on my own. And that allowed me to just focus on clients. And that was the year that I closed 51. So, I mean, it was COVID, which was awful. Would not recommend. But that, you know, kind of going from, I don't know, it wasn't part-time because it was still full-time, but hiring that key hire just made a huge change.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to kind of talk about this, really a foundational mindset, which is how do you earn clients for life? Oftentimes agents can be so fixated on like the one transaction, right? But when we service clients at a very high level and we have a system beyond the closing, we can really earn the lifetime value of that client, meaning they're going to buy 5, 6, 7 homes. They're probably going to know people that will buy. So just walk us through, when you think about client retention, where does that really start for you?
So yeah, client retention. So 82% of my business is repeat and referral. And I love hate it because it's always, you got to keep feeding the beast to keep it growing because my clients keep moving out of state because Utah's expensive. But with that, just making sure they have good experience. So I have a quote on my wall in my office that says, people don't remember what you said or did, they remember how you made them feel. And that is the goal. Like, I know a lot, I tell them a lot. That doesn't matter, but it's how they feel at the end of the transaction. So a lot of my process is to avoid the valleys. So setting them up for, this is what's going to happen, this is what's next, letting them have that expectation, because the biggest complaint in real estate is lack of communication. And so I over communicate, I respond very quickly, I don't have office hours, because if you put yourself in their shoes, they're stressed out, they want to know the answer. And if you can quickly just respond to them and give them the answer versus make them wait till business hours, it just relieves a lot of stress.
Yeah. Well, then walk us through, what does that look like when either touch points during the transaction or your post-close system? What are some of those touch points that you focus on throughout in the transaction or post-close that really earn that client trust?
Yeah, so the systematic part is every Friday they get an update on what has happened this week and what's happening next. But then there's also a group text with me and my TC, and whoever can answer faster will answer. So then there's never a time frame of waiting for response from people. And so that's beneficial. And then after the fact, we do more surprise and delight, because people expect a thank you card or expect a follow-up call after a month, but we wait until Thanksgiving to do that, because then it's a complete surprise. They're not expecting it. So people who close in December will get a thank you card the following year.
Yeah.
But then within the transaction, I treat people how I would want to be treated. And so a lot of that actually super inconveniences my team, but it's helpful to them. So because I started when I had little kids, I realized and I've had 2 kids since. So like I've been through the whole cycle. But part of my process with my listings is we stage on Monday, photos Monday, clean Tuesday, launch Wednesday. And all of that is to shorten the time frame of keeping your house show ready. And it's one of those things that it's super inconvenient for my photographers, for my floor plan, for staging. But all of that makes it easier for my sellers, because keeping your house show ready is the worst part of selling your house.
Yeah.
And so and all of my systems are like that. Like, it's, what can I do to make this easier for my clients?
Yeah.
So my most recent one that happened is I have a client who's allergic to dogs, and I stage all my listings, and I knew that my staging pillows had been in homes with pets. And so I went and bought all new furniture, or all new pillows and blankets for their house specifically, and brought it to their house. And she was super grateful for it, but it was one of those, like, just slightly above and beyond.
Right.
And she had never said she was allergic to dogs. It was just while we were showing houses, her kids were rolling in the carpet in a house that had a dog, and she was like, I'm going to be coughing all night. And so it was listening to what they said and implementing beyond
Yeah.
what's expected.
So really listening to what the client's saying, even when it's not directly to you, right?
Yeah.
Just in passing. Well, I know that you're very methodical, when you approach your business. So I'm curious, you mentioned the Friday updates. Is there a science behind that? Why Friday versus another day of the week?
So Friday is my day that I am least busy, and it lets them have answers before the weekend. And this is for when they're under contract. So this is not for my active listings. Active listings usually fall between Tuesday or Thursday, depending on life. But with that, it lets them know what we've done, because a lot of people have no idea what we do. So it lets them know everything we have done and then what's coming up next, so they just can be peaceful through the weekend. And then it also gives us time to follow up with the title and lending on Thursdays. So then we are making sure everyone's doing their job.
Cool. Okay. Well, one of the big components to earning clients for life is doing client events, but also just, personal touches that you stage throughout their experience. So just walk us through how you approach your client events or any kind of personal touches that you do.
Yeah. So we have a group of past clients called Club 92, and we market heavily to them. So every month they get a monthly giveaway. And we've played around. We've done cheap stuff. We've done expensive stuff. Right now we spend about $350 a month on that giveaway. So either it's 2 things or 3 things, depending on value. So that they get an email, they see it on social media, entered to win, and they don't have to give their email or anything. It's just their name, because they're already past clients. And then in January, we do our biggest, most expensive event, and we invite only past clients. And some people have said, do I kick people out of Club 92 to get to the number 92? It's just a name. I don't kick people out unless they buy or sell without me. And then I still don't always kick them out. Like I had one that they got divorced, and so she didn't have a choice of who they worked with. So she's still in Club 92. And then with that, any of the additional events, they're the first to be invited. They're the first to sign up. In March, we do a pie day and we deliver pies to them. And that one is the same. Like instead of making them come to me to get a pie, I deliver a pie to them, and it's a surprise and delight. And I let them pick the pie that they get. So again, logistically, a lot more work for us, but better experience for the client. And then in May, so next week, we're going to drive to people's houses and pick up garbage
Cool.
with our
Okay.
moving truck.
It makes me randomly think of like the 80-20 rule, right? It was 80% of our results come from 20% of our actions. I think something similar applies to our sphere of influence, where the majority of our production can come from a very focused group within our database. So is that kind of the science behind it? Is that you're looking to elevate the experience for the clients who are most likely to do repeat and referral business with you?
Yes and no. So with the database, past clients all are part of it. And I do find that 20% really are the ones that engage more often. So I'm seeing them more often just with how the events work out. But everyone is invited to it. It's just who engages at what level.
Okay, awesome. Well, kind of walk us through, I know you've mentioned having a scoreboard to track your pipeline. What does that look like?
So I took a class from Boyd Brown forever ago. And he basically said, if you're not keeping score, you don't know who's winning the game. And before then I had been opposed to keeping track of it. So my scoreboard is basically, I check it once a week and I have all the leads and where they're at in the cycle. So I have, and it's top down. So the top is people who are like a year out, 6 months out, 3 months out, 2 months out, actively working with under contract. And I have to work it that way because my natural inclination would be work with my under contracts first because they're going to pay me the soonest. But if I do that, then I'm ignoring getting my leads further down the pipeline. And I don't always do anything or something with people who are like a year out. It's more keeping track of them. I set the appointment. I went on an appointment for reasons that they can't control. They're not doing something. So I keep them in my world, and it's just a Google spreadsheet. And I just once a week check it to make sure that I'm keeping track and not losing my clients.
Cool. Okay, awesome. So it really just gives you visibility, right? So optics in business is so important, being able to have kind of a clear landscape and saying, okay, who are the people I need to focus on? I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about just scaling and hiring leverage. Because at some point in your career, which you kind of already mentioned, there was a pretty big leap in your production. And a lot of it comes down to the leverage or support that you brought into your business. So just looking back at that big shift, what were the core operational changes that made the biggest difference?
So when Brady was coming to join me, we talked to another couple who is in real estate, and they said have different jobs. And so we really committed to that. He wasn't licensed for the first couple of years because we really didn't want any of that overlap where he was showing houses or anything like that. He's now licensed just so there's no gray area, but he does nothing real estate related. He doesn't show homes. He does install my lock boxes. Best thing ever. But it really kind of gives us lanes. And so it allows me to just focus on my 20%, which is prospecting, following up with leads, going on appointments. And then he builds out, I have a tracker sheet of my appointments for each week, and he went through and did the nerdiness to figure it out. But it's really helpful because then I don't have to focus on everything. I just have to focus on who are my appointments this week? How can I get people down the line? And it was really nice just to separate the operations because I was kind of doing a 36 touch before I had him, but not at the level that it's done now.
Yeah. How did you actually decide it's time where I actually need support?
The first time I had joined a team, so this was probably 17, 18, and the team had an admin, and that was my biggest wow, that leveraged so much of my life. So when I left the team, that was the first thing I did. And I hired admin early. I think I was at 24 transactions. But being a mom with little kids, it was easier to do it then. So I've had an admin basically since then. And then we broke it off to have a TC. And I mean, Brady does more than just admin work, but I have a transaction coordinator and an admin at this point.
what are some of those things you've chosen to keep on your plate? Like, what are your primary focus points within the business?
So I do the content creation, but Brady does the posting of it. So like I shoot it raw, put it in a file. He will do all the edits, captions, all that. So then it's consistent. So like when I'm in high energy mode, I'll post or I'll film like 10 videos. So then they're available and ready because we post daily on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook
Every day.
every day.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane.
Did
But
you
it's
start with that
no.
playbook?
No, so I would recommend picking one and then committing to mastery, which is like a year. Like just do the same platform for a full year. And then once you feel comfortable, adding another one. But yes, it's years, over a decade at this point of
Yeah.
implementation.
Have you identified maybe, obviously you probably get some leads from social media, but also just kind of the intangible value that comes from that to your sphere, right? Them seeing you or positioning you as a market expert in their mind
Yep.
because they see you posting content on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Have you felt like that's made an impact in your business?
Yeah, so social media, everyone in there knows me some way, but they don't know, they're not getting the full 36 touch. So my best example is my cousin, which we're not one of those families that we hang out a lot. Like I probably hadn't seen him 10 years prior. He had been following my social media for a while and he called me to buy a house and I helped him buy a house. And then he rented that one and then we just bought another house and it's my biggest career to date transaction and it was 1.65 and it was because he followed me on Facebook forever. So it creates credibility, but it takes people who are in your world and gets them further into your world.
Yeah.
You know, it's an easy one to see and then they sign up for an event and then they come to the event and now they're getting the full 36 touch and it's the funnel process.
Mhm. Totally. If you were to maybe just highlight some of any CRM usage or any kind of technology leverage that you've brought into your business.
So we use Command because I pay for it every month, so why not? And with Command, we keep everyone in them and we have it tagged, so then we can send the emails and we send both of our emails every month from Command. Brady uses Strippo to design it because it's easier for him. And then, yeah, just social media. I don't have a ton of leverage.
Cool. Okay. And then what is your planning process when it comes to just looking at your 36 touch or the client value delivery system that you're going to deploy for the year? Are you planning that on a monthly basis, weekly basis, annual timeline?
Great
How does
question.
that planning process look
So
like?
from October to December, we plan our whole year for the following year. And then, so we have like a one-page sheet of like, this is everything we're gonna do. And then every week, we have a team meeting where we discuss implementing. And we discuss what the next step is. So like, we know the general plan and then we know what we're gonna do. So if we want to add something, we research it and add it, and then we give it 6 months. Like if it's not working after 6 months, and working as in having a dividend or a payout, then we stop doing it. But if it's something I'm not willing to do for 6 months, I'm not going to add it.
So really, you're looking at the red light, green light process. You're saying, is this thing providing us some sort of revenue after a 6-month timeline?
Yep.
And then you're assessing, do we keep it or cut it?
Yep.
Okay, cool. What is kind of just going back to client events, because I think that's such a big one. I feel like I've seen you do well. What is just your overall event philosophy? Is the goal to get everybody, to come to every event? Is it just the touch point in itself? The invitation is really where the gold happens. Just kind of walk us through your perspective on client events and why those are valuable for you.
So we have different levels. We have client outreach, which the goal is to get more people into the database. So that one is pool party, Easter egg hunt, pumpkin patch, and photos with Santa. And that one, ideally, I want my database to invite their friends and family because it's a very soft introduction because they're like, oh, I've met you before. And then eventually we do transactions. And then we have higher value for just clients. So that is the dinner in January, the Pi Day in March, and the spring cleanup. And they're all first, second quarter heavy on purpose because that's when most people are buying and selling. So it's more, how can we be in front of them first couple quarters and then the last half of the year is more just fun stuff and growing the database.
So if I understand, it sounds like there's two parts. There's the one component is how do you grow the database or expand it? And then the second part is you're deepening the relationships with your existing clients.
Yep.
So how do you actually cause them to bring, friends, family members, other people to those events? Are you planting the seed and telling them to bring people with them, or how does that
Yes.
look?
So when we send the sign up, we say friends and family event, invite your friends and family. We ask them to share the QR code, so then their friends sign up that way. Sometimes they're like, oh, my friend's coming. And it's like, well, I want your friend's contact information. But that doesn't always work. But it's more posting about it. Like, I don't care as much about people coming.
Okay.
But the ones that are database outreach, it's kind of a fixed cost and it gets cheaper the more people that come. Where the other database deepening, it's more expensive the more people that come. So that one I only want to do for the database because it does get expensive. Like, we spent $8,000 on our January event this year. We had 120 people at Solagave, and it was amazing. Most expensive one, but it was pricey. Where the pool party, it's like $3,000, and if I can get more people, then it gets cheaper
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. Did you guys start there with doing bigger events, or did you start on the budget when you were first starting out? How'd that work?
So the budget, the interesting thing is we did our first event at Rodizio Grill, which is the same venue so it's kind of fun to see the 9-year difference. And the first one, I had 30 people there, and it was expensive as well, but it built up to it. And we set 9% of our gross income towards events. And so some years we actually spend less. So that's why we have so many events, because we're like, oh, we're not spending enough of the gross income. We need to add more. And then probably once, maybe twice a year, we'll go back and look at the budget and cut stuff.
Yeah.
I'm always cutting stuff out of my budget.
Well, walk me through that, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges when sitting down with agents when they're wanting to really grow their business. The first thing we have to look at is, are they actually investing enough back into their business, right? Especially when you are a solo agent and you maybe have, really high, profit margins on your business. And we have to assess, are we actually reinvesting back to grow our business? So where did that 9% number come from?
It comes from the Red Book, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's not on the stack. And it's the lead generation portion of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It's on page 157 of the book, if you want to look. But spending that much to generate leads, and I count my marketing and my client events and my photography, all of that generates my leads. So that's really most of my expenses. I have office expenses and I have taxes and stuff, but that's kind of the core. Like, if I look back at the previous year and I didn't spend, then it's like, how can I invest more?
Yeah, cool. So for every $100,000, we should look at roughly $9,000 reinvested back into growing the business through lead generation.
Yep.
I want to shift a little bit to the referral business growth. So referrals, I feel like, tend to happen because your clients become raving fans over time, right? They really do trust you, and you're also top of mind. So when a family member or friend is like, we're moving to XYZ, or we're thinking about selling our home, you want your name to pop up and be the first option for them to recommend. So when you think about referrals, do you feel like that's something that you need to consistently ask for? Is it something that you earn through delivering a high quality service? Is it a combination of the two? What does that look like?
The only time I ask for referrals is on my wrap-up email. At the very bottom, it says, if you enjoyed working with us, please refer your friends and family. Like, it's the most passive thing ever. But I think the reason we get referrals is because we're top of mind, because of everything else we do. Because people hire the first or second person they think of. So that's your job, is to be the first or second person they think of.
And is there any kind of referral reward or gifting strategy or anything like that comes into play?
No, I mean, kind of. We do a thank you card to the person who referred, but we don't do gift cards or anything like that. It's just a handwritten thank you card thanking them for connecting us.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you feel like has been a major key play when it comes to just sparking referrals?
Not really.
Okay. Just top of mind presence.
Yeah.
Being that go-to. Awesome. If you were to maybe just kind of go through your journey, what are any of the key moments where, if you look back, obviously, bringing in leverage and support is a big piece. But are there any other parts where you feel like this was a big game changer for my production and allowing me to close more transactions?
In 2018, I hired a coach from Maps, and that was really beneficial to just think through systems and processes better instead of just showing up and being like, I don't know what I'm doing today. So that was huge. And I've had a coach on and off over the years. I currently don't have one, but focusing on the 5 people you spend the most time with
Yeah.
has been super beneficial. And just spending time with people who think big,
Mhm.
grow big. And then I was invited to that. So I co-own Mapleton with some of the guys from this office. And I was invited to that because I showed up to the office every day and they knew my name and they knew I invested in real estate. So like that was a huge opportunity because I came to work.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but
Yep.
come to
Show
work.
up, consistency, right?
Yep.
Kind of going back to the social media strategy, because I know that's been a big focus for you. Obviously, YouTube, TikTok. When you just look at content creation strategically, how do you think about showing up online to stay top of mind without feeling like you're just selling all the time?
So there's a wheel of what you can do on social media. It's educate, entertain. Kevin, I don't remember the other 2. Correspondent. Yeah. And so with that, I am not funny at all. So I decided to go with education. So I just educate all the time. And it's sometimes entertaining, but really I don't care because people aren't watching unless they care. And if they care, they want the information. And if not, they'll just scroll past and be like, oh yeah, Becca's a realtor,
Mhm.
Becca's a realtor, Becca's a realtor. And that's all I really want. Because when it comes down to it, they'll start engaging at their level of interest.
Yeah.
So give value by educating.
Does anybody know what color Becca tends to wear? Tell us the strat. Some of these people don't know the joke, but you wear red every
Yes,
day.
every day for 2 years. And it's finally getting to the point that people are like, wait a second, do you wear red every day? And I do because in my social media, it shows red in the field every single time. So it just helps with brand awareness. And I actually had a photographer the other day be like, I don't remember your name, but I know who you are because I see you in red every day. Like we came to an event. So again, just helping with branding and awareness.
So what does your closet look like? Just
Lots of red and
red.
blue is my favorite color. So picked the wrong brokerage.
awesome. Has your content, final question for me, and then if we want to do 1 or 2 questions from the group, has your content strategy shifted at all since you first started to now?
Oh
Or is
yeah.
it pretty much just do more?
Yeah, do more, absolutely. So I did Facebook Live, which was really helpful to get over the video phobia because you just had to. Like if you are bored one day, want to go to my Facebook page and scroll back to 2015, 17, whatever, they're bad. So at this point, I just evolve with what the platforms want. So like right now, the platforms want either a 7-second video that's asking a question that people will engage in, or they
Mhm.
want a minute. So just I'll spend probably once a quarter, maybe. I'll go look and see what's doing well and just create more of that.
Awesome. Great. 1 question here.
Yes, so for Facebook, I have a personal page and I will only post business 20% of the time. And then I have a Facebook business page, which I only post business. And then Instagram, it's all business in my feed and it's personal in my stories. And then TikTok, it's whatever. TikTok is the one that I feel like I'm trying to figure out. So I have no like plan. And then YouTube is completely business.
Awesome. Any other questions for Becca?
I actually do. I pay my sister $80 a month to post once a day funny stuff on my business Facebook page because she's funny. I'm not. Nothing. You guys know everything. You've mastered. Yes.
Updates, nothing, say Who updates your sheets that you glance over with all the people you're tracking? Who updates those on a daily basis? Because I know you're referencing them just once a week.
I just do it once a week.
So you just keep it like all the,
Yeah, because usually I know what appointments I went on. And so then once a week I'll go write the appointments. And actually he was out of town for a month, so I was busy and I didn't update it for a month. So it was a little harder because I had to go back through my calendar and be like, what appointment did I do what week? But yeah, I just do it once a week.
So you talk about like keeping score and stuff.
Mhm.
What would be maybe the top 3 or 4 things that everyone should be keeping score of? Maybe every day or every week? No.
Great question. So last year I closed 20 million in volume and all I kept track of was 2 appointments a week. Like I don't want to overcomplicate it because it just becomes too much. So did I have my 2 appointments? And if I didn't, what can I do to get my 2 appointments? And appointments for me are we're sitting down and we're talking about buying, selling, or investing. It's not we went to lunch and we talked about something fun. Like it's they came to my office and we did something. So like this week's appointment, I have a girl who reached out from Instagram. I sold her mom a house, I sold her sister a house, and she reached out. So it's a listing appointment. And then I have one of my investors selling one of his properties and he's like, okay, I'm ready to sell. So we're doing the paperwork today. So I've been working on them, but the appointment doesn't get to count until I go on the appointment. And I actually rescheduled the one. She was supposed to be last week and we rescheduled to today. So she doesn't get to be last week's appointment. She's this week's appointment.
Awesome. Okay, got one more, and we'll wrap up.
If you don't hit the 2 appointment, I'm guessing you hit more than 2 appointments a week, but if you have a week like with the one reschedules, are you working extra hard to fill that spot and make sure you're hitting your 2, or how often do you not hit that goal? And then do you overcompensate the next week to try to get back on track?
I'd say probably once a month I don't hit it. And I have energy cycles where some weeks I'm on and like I have 5 appointments, and then I have others where I'm like, I don't want to talk to a soul. So we built that into the calendar where we're like, based off of how many, and this is based off of if only 50% of my transactions or appointments convert, which is a really low conversion rate because this market's been rough. So we built that in. So like there's some weeks where it's like I have no appointments and it's okay because I'm going out of town or because I know. So the goal is always 2 appointments, but I'd say probably once a month. I don't.
Awesome. Well, Becca, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Please give her a hand.